Hey, Steve and Melody, welcome back again.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks,
We're
Doug.
really excited to talk to you today.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Right.
this experiment you did with the carnivore diet, that's extended into a 10-month situation now. We did a talk on that, and it's kind of gone viral on YouTube. And just the other day, Steve was talking about like another experiment that you guys had started doing, where you had questions about whether people can actually still function optimally, especially if they're working out, if they're not eating carbs. And so you guys apparently have done another experiment now to kind of prove that point. So this is take two, and we want to hear a whole lot about that new experiment and how that's going.
Yeah. So, as we know, we've been doing it for a while. And in July, after we come back from the low carb conference, we've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of performance questions had came up. And for the whole time we've been doing it, that's what you often heard is if you're not eating carbs, you're not going to perform at a high level. You might be able to work out or run or lift a little, but you're not going to be able to perform at a high level. And we've been working out the entire time, how we normally work out, but we don't always push real hard if we don't have to. We just enjoy working out. So
Yeah.
so we decided, hey, let's ramp it up. Let's really increase the activity and the intensity to see how we feel not eating any carbs and just eating meat.
Yeah. And being keto, you already have that people where they will say, oh, well, if you're not eating carbs, even with keto, even though you're eating some non-starchy carbohydrates and things like that you won't be able to perform as well. So then when you go carnivore and you cut out even those non-starchy carbohydrates, you're basically at zero carb. And so then, that does ask the question or beg the question, can you perform or can you work out, in any kind of intense way without any carbohydrates at all? And so we didn't ever really intend to experiment with that. Just as we started going on the carnivore diet, we started feeling so good. It was like, why not push ourselves a little bit more and let's see what happens.
Yeah. And the first thing we did was we started incorporating some high intensity interval training, just your standard hit, 20 on, 10 off to see how we felt. And we started off with about, an 8-minute hit and felt really good. And we did that for a week or so, and we started incorporating more running. So we started running longer distances. We started, periodizing our running and growing every week. And we also started adding like intense sprints at the end of the week, really to see, go above that lactic threshold and really push your muscles past where they normally are used to see how we felt.
Right. Push beyond the comfort zone.
Yes.
Right out of that comfort zone, because just running or jogging is, most people can do that normally on any diet that you eat, really. You feel better on keto, in my opinion, but people will say that's just endurance. So we were doing the endurance and the high intensity interval training, and then we started throwing in sprints. And over a period of about 4 to 5 weeks, we went from 10 sprints with about a minute rest in between up to 20 full out, all on 100-meter sprints with about a minute rest jogging in between. And usually at the 17, 18, 19, 20 were my fastest times. I got faster the deeper I got into it. So it was really, really interesting as far as performance goes.
And
So you
for
both
me,
found but I was going to say, so you both found that not only were you able to function, but you were actually able to function like at a really high intensity.
yes. At my age at our age, I'm 47 and starting to do things like sprinting, which I've never really done, in any kind of consistent way in my life. And starting that now, you would think, oh, well, you're going to get injured. You're going to be super sore. The recovery was amazing. And the fact that I could get out there and do it and increase my speed every week and increase my amount of sprints I was doing every week was pretty interesting. What I do is I keep a notebook and I keep track of all of my workouts. And throughout this, just watching every every week, every workout, getting better and being able to do more was really eye-opening, because one thing that I was concerned about with upping intensity and upping workouts, because sometimes we'll do 2 or 3 workouts a day.
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned about overtraining, and then that interfering with sleep patterns. And what I found is I sleep more than not through the night. Like there might be one night every like 4 or 5 weeks where I might have a little bit of restlessness at night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the key, that maybe this should be a week where you taper back a little, because I think every athlete needs that rest period where you take every 4 to 5, 6 weeks, you take a week and you
Just
dial
recover,
it back to recover.
Back off a little bit, yeah.
Right. And
So
so
you're not
that's
talking about giving, like stopping completely, just like,
no.
you know, like dialing it back a bit.
Yeah.
Right. And that's usually your body's sign of like, hey, I need to rest and recover a little bit, which is normal and you should. But just throughout the entire thing, I would say that both of us, we've had such a great sleep, which is the thing I was most concerned about, more so than actually being able to do the endurance work or the hit, you know, or the high intensity work. It was, I don't want to mess with my sleep because that's so important.
So have you guys by any chance done any like DEXA scans or something like that, where you got some kind of data about, you know, lean muscle mass and stuff like that?
We did do DEXA scans out at Low Carb. We haven't done an update.
Oh, you haven't done one since then?
Yeah, that'll be a great time. But as far as like noticing your body composition, you know, you can notice when you feel like you're, you know, the fat's a little thinner on your body, you're starting to thin out a little bit.
You can feel it, yeah.
Yeah, and clothes, your clothes tell it.
Yeah, your clothes tell it. And you know, we had ramped that program up we started week 1, and I think we started like a 30-minute run, and we grew our 30-minute run over a period of 4 to 5 weeks to an hour and 15-minute run on Monday, as well as lifting weights. And then we were also incorporated about an hour in the pool, so an hour of swimming with drills and speed work in the pool. We did 400-meter repeats on Wednesday. And then, you know, another workout. Tuesday afternoon was a weight workout. Wednesday afternoon was a weight workout. And we started really getting into the Olympic lifting style, you know, of workouts.
Yeah, more the CrossFit style type of workouts where you're incorporating a lot of metabolic conditioning, high speed, you know, training with the Olympic lifting, which can really, I mean, it's effective. It's completely effective. That style of working out, and incorporating that even on days when we've done a long run, we noticed that we could do it. You know, you could go out and in the afternoon, after you've had the long run in the morning, you've had a rest period during the day, then you can go right back out and you can do your CrossFit style, you know, intense training in the evening. And you can still recover. That was the big thing. And I don't think, you know, I definitely don't think we're special in that way. I think anyone can do this.
Yeah. And I mean, I was getting, I think you mentioned it a bit earlier, but I was getting really concerned getting into my 50s that I was losing my strength and, you know, my muscles were fading away, and that night started doing some gym to try and help. A lot of the stuff we've got on YouTube now is we're developing a whole lot of collaboration with Dr. Ben Bakikio, and he's got this idea of doing like a really short, intense workout twice a week. And you know, I'm like you guys. Well, not quite like you guys. I'm more the ketovore kind of thing. We kind of tending towards eating less and less vegetables. So our carb count is really low. We're not totally carnivore.
Right.
But, you know, I'm almost at 55 now, and literally doing that workout in 2.5 months, like really low carb, I've gained like 4 pounds in muscle mass in those 2.5 months. And I didn't notice until other people that hadn't seen me for a while were saying, dude, are you on steroids or something? You know, but at my age, that I'm super stoked about that. You know, the fact that I feel like I can actually build muscle, and that I'm not going to fade away and become a frail old man, you know, at least not for a long time yet.
Well, you probably felt a lot of strength increase as well. Like,
oh, totally. Yes. So just as an example, I mean, one of the exercises we do is like a leg press. And when I first started doing that, I was really struggling at 240 pounds. And, my last workout, I was up at 345. It's literally, more than a 50% increase in strength in 3 months. So it's incredible.
Yeah, and that strength, especially lower body strength, is what's going to keep you going when you start to get into your later years, and that's extremely important. We tested ourselves as far as strength-wise. We've both gotten stronger. I know she has. I see her lift. She's added weight. I felt like I've gotten stronger as well. And then but really, I think the key indicator was what you talked about earlier, the metabolic conditioning. We did. On a Friday, we did a metabolic conditioning workout, and it was 50 burpees, 100 push-ups, 115 walking lunges, and 200 air squats. Mm-hmm. And then you sprinted 400 meters. And you did that 3 times.
Yes.
Was it 3 times? So anybody that's done 50 burpees knows that that's a metabolic conditioning test for a normal person.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, so you do the burpees and then the push-ups and then the lunges and then the squats and then the 400-meter sprint. And that whole workout took me over an hour. And it is a nonstop. You're in the high heart rate zone. I mean, critical heart rate zone. And what happened is about 30 minutes into it, I hit this stride where my breathing was good. My run, my 400-meter sprint felt great. I never slowed down. Like I didn't have to stop and gather my breath. I just hit this metabolic stride where I didn't have to back off. And to me, that's a key for an hour workout like that. That's very intense. At in your late 40s and 48, and being able to do that is key, especially on the diet that we're eating.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And you mentioned a bit earlier as well that I wanted to come back to was the recovery thing, because that was something when I very first started on the keto diet that I noticed very quickly how vastly improved my recovery was from an intense effort. And you guys are talking about it, you've taken it a step further where you're literally recovering when you do more than one workout in a day, and you're recovering easily from that before the next workout.
Yeah. And, I think that was the most interesting thing is after doing the workout he's talking about, the next day we could work out again, after doing that. And that's what's so crazy is that, number one, you didn't hit the wall. You didn't run. That was the one thing I know I said to you at the end of that workout, which took me over an hour as well, a little over an hour, was that I just never hit a wall where I ran out of energy.
Right.
Which, I know everyone, talks about, endurance athletes with having to carb load or use carbs or gels or goos during long intense workout or long endurance workouts. But, sometimes these high endurance workouts that last for a long time, you're going to hit a wall. And it's just amazing that with all the lunges, all the squats, the lactic acid didn't build up. There was you could just keep going. As long as you didn't quit up here,
right,
you were good.
Yeah.
And I think that's something when I was in Cape Town and I was talking with Tim Noakes, and he was saying that he felt like that when your body starts running out of glucose, the first thing that happens is that your brain is scared that it's going to die because it's the thing that starts shutting you down. So if you don't ever have your brain in crisis like that, then it's amazing how much you can keep going.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that are key to that is your body will perform the way you train it. And everybody talks about you have to eat carbohydrates to create the glucose to make the glycogen. And there are other pathways in your body that will do that. And they're multiple. So if you train your body in that state, it will become very efficient at those other pathways of creating the glucose to store the glycogen. It'll use non-essential amino acids. It'll take fatty acids, convert it to glycerol, and convert that to glucose for glycogen. So if you train your body in the way without using carbs, then your body will still perform, I feel, at the same level, just way more efficiently.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like this second experiment's kind of almost even more impressive than the first one, that you showed that you weren't going to die if you just ate meat.
Yeah, we've been told we were going to die plenty, but
well, that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, was like, okay, so now it's been 10 months or more since you started this. So, you know, what else have you seen? How's your whole lifestyle like changed?
Well, I think one thing that we noticed was we increased workouts dramatically, but we did not increase the amount of food we were eating dramatically. I think that's something else that is really interesting, because we were working out a lot harder, but we weren't eating more. We didn't feel like we got hungrier and needed more food. What we were eating was just fine with making the muscle protein synthesis with what we were eating.
Wow.
Well,
so, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's such a nutrient dense way to eat. There's very little waste, you know,
Right.
And so you're utilizing everything that you're putting in your body. So when you're not starving of nutrients, then it was just it's just a very satisfying way to eat, just very much like keto is. But yeah, we didn't have to start increasing our food intake a lot, or
like we didn't start eating snacks all of a sudden. We still ate the same meals we were eating before, and we just increased our activity level, which is very cool.
So what is your rough breakdown of protein to fat on a typical day?
I have that. So I've been using the chronometer or chronometer, whichever way. People say it different, but I use that to log all of my food, and just to see, so that I'm not a fan of logging, but I feel like it's a good way to measure and see where you're at and what's working for you. And since he eats really the same exact foods as me pretty much, but maybe just a little bit more protein, it's easy to see where we're at. We land roughly around about 70 to 75% fat, and everything else is protein.
So around 25 to 30% protein.
Yeah, so we're around 25 to 30% protein on any given day. Usually we hit that 25% protein because we get really fatty cuts of meat, and we start the day with a fat coffee. That's the one thing, that we definitely do, is the fat coffee. We didn't give up coffee throughout the whole thing. So, some people would say that's not strict carnivore, but that's just where we chose to go, is to keep the coffee in, because it's something we've always done. So, I've given up coffee before. I didn't really want to this time. That's just
Don't want to get cranky again.
I don't want to do that. But that's where we land almost every single day, and I tracked it for weeks, and that's basically
that's important to point out, because people think this is going to be a high protein diet. That's automatically what they assume, but I think it's the choice of meats we're eating, and adding the eggs and stuff in, that it works out to very similar to what a ketogenic diet works out to.
Right. Some people, if they chose to do this and they ate a lot leaner meats, or maybe more fish that was lean and lower in fat, they would have to really, they might have to monitor that, or make sure that they're doing what's right for their body. The higher fat and that 25 to 30% protein is just perfect for what we're doing and where we're at.
It's almost like the calories that you would have been consuming on a small amount of carbs that you would be if you were on a ketogenic diet is now just added to the protein side of things. So you kind of fat ratio is about the same as it was on the ketogenic diet.
And, I know that even on Amber O'Hearn's site, she talks about that. Like, when you remove the carbohydrates that you were eating, you can essentially add that to the protein value of the day. And what's funny is that we never really set out to do that. What we did was we just ate food, and we were just eating our fatty cuts of meat, mostly ribeye, you know, sometimes a chuck roast, slow cooked with lots of fat, but mostly ribeyes and ground beef, things like that, lots of eggs. And that's just kind of where it ended up falling. I was like, well, let me start measuring it. I just started measuring what we were already doing, and that's where it landed. It was just very natural. And that's what I love about it, is that it can become a very intuitive way of eating, where someone doesn't have to be concerned with weighing, measuring, counting, calculating. They might want to do it for a time to see where they're at, but it becomes very, very intuitive, because your body, you start being able to really hear what it's saying, which is very much like keto, you know, for people.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I just remember you talking about, you were doing some other experiment about reintroducing certain carbohydrates for
recently.
Explain yourself.
Okay, so because I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner and I actually have clients who do a carnivore diet, I look at it and think, well, one day they might want to add something back. And I need to be able to warn them, tell them, encourage them, or guide them on how to do that. So that means I need to do it myself. And which is why we started the carnivore diet in the first place, because we had people who were asking us questions. So that's why we started it in the first place.
Why not do it?
So now, in reverse, I need to know how to explain to someone to add things back in. So while he was out of town the other week, I was like, well, this is the week. This is when I'll do it. So I started adding in certain vegetables. I started with sauerkraut and some fermented vegetables, and didn't seem to have any problem with that. And the reason why I did that is to, you know, you haven't had any gut bugs to break down cellulose. So it's good to have something that's basically pre-digested for you, which is kind of where fermented vegetables land. Mm-hmm. And so I started with that, really no negative effects from that. But then I started adding some really well-cooked roasted vegetables, very soft, not leafy greens and nothing raw. But I did really well for a few days. And then all of a sudden, boom, I was just like bloated feeling. It wasn't working. And I just didn't feel good. And the small amount that I was eating was probably anywhere from half a cup of the roasted vegetables and probably a quarter cup of the fermented. And just that small amount caused me to have an issue towards the end of the week. And I just wasn't willing to continue on with that experiment because I didn't feel good. Now, someone might say, well, you just needed to give it time. And that is true. You have to build that terrain back up that is essential to break down and ferment those foods in your gut. And, you know, that's one thing about the microbiome. It's always changing. And yes, I could keep going and build that terrain back up to break down that material and utilize it. But I just feel so good carnivore. I didn't really have a reason to do that other than to be able to explain it to a client. So okay. I went back to carnivore.
Really quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I just feel so much better.
Yeah. So the last thing that I wanted to bring up was when we were chatting the other day, you mentioned that when you first, I think it was when you first did it, that you kind of went cold turkey, like one day you weren't carnivore and the next day you were, and that you did notice some pain in your knuckles and stuff like that, and we felt like it was oxalate toxicity or something. And we talked about ways to maybe mitigate that if someone else is going to try and embark on this journey.
Yeah, I didn't know anything really about oxalate buildup. I kind of went to the person who knows most about it, in my opinion, which is Sally Norton.
Right.
I started looking at her information, And I had a knot come up on my finger and on two of my fingers that felt like rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, this carnivore diet is giving me rheumatoid arthritis. What is going on? And so further investigation, I was the person who ate a green smoothie every day, lots of spinach, lots of Brussels sprouts, lots of high oxalate foods, and had kidney stones in the past. So when that came up and I read her information, I was like, well, that's got to be what it is, and after a time period of being carnivore, it just like mysteriously went away. I can't even pinpoint the day that it went away, because when something doesn't hurt anymore, you don't notice it. And so it was just like one day I was like, that's not there anymore. And I would say that someone who's eaten, if you know that you've been eating huge spinach salads, lots of kale, things like that over the years, you might start slow, because you do have what they call an oxalate dump. And because it lodges in the tissues and in the joints. And when it starts coming out, it can settle in the joints and cause that inflammation. Mm-hmm. And from my understanding, it would be better for someone to maybe start slow, but I'm not much of a slow starter. So I just went whole hog, whole hog and cold turkey all into the carnivore diet, which it might have been better to go a little slower with hindsight, but no one's going to really know that until it happens. So, if someone has a concern with it, they might start pulling back the leafy greens slowly and just decreasing them over a few weeks to give the body time to really release that. And because your body will clear it. I just dumped so fast and detoxed so quickly that my body didn't have time to clear it.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's. I think it's really important for people that are scared to try and start this. That if they have some good advice on how to do this, it can be very really helpful. So this has been another awesome chat. Let's not wait 10 months for the next one. If you guys are ever planning to do a DEXA scan again in the next few months, then please let me know when you get the results in, because I'd love to just talk about the differences and what you've seen in that, because I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. So our DEXA scan was in July at Low Carb in San Diego. So that was a few months into our carnivore experiment. Mm-hmm. So the next one would be at least probably 6 months after that. So that's probably a good time period to see some different results.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, we'll get one done and let you know how it turns out.
No, that'll be awesome. Okay, guys, I look forward to the third in the series. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks.